On today's Green Bay Nation, we'll hear some reaction from inside the locker room following Mike McCarthy's firing and who could be the next head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Plus, we'll answer all your fan questions regarding the head coaching change. That's coming up next. Green Bay Nation starts right now. Hello, welcome to Green Bay Nation. Lily Zhao here. We have a lot to get to in the show. It's going to be a lot to talk about. Joining me to chat everything about the Green Bay Packers, you know these guys, Marcus Eversole, radio host on 107.5 and 1400 The Fan, and Andy Herman, analyst for Cheesehead TV and the creator of the Pack a Day podcast. And guys, let's just kind of say the 100th season of Packers football has had a couple of shockers. Number one, they're 4-7-1. And number two, the biggest news of all, Mike McCarthy fired shortly after their 20-17 loss to one of the worst football teams in the NFL. Joe Philbin, obviously the interim head coach. So when you guys found out that Mike McCarthy had been fired, what were your reactions?
Initial reaction was that it was just time. Now, I was surprised at the time that it happened during the season, but, you know, sometimes it's just run its course. When you're in your 13th year in the same spot, I know everybody's got to rush out to their hot take of why do it this early in season or it's long overdue. Sometimes it's just time.
Yeah, I was surprised but not shocked. Honestly, the last couple weeks when they had, come off a loss, I was kind of looking for it the next morning. I could just see Ian Rappaport breaking the news the next morning of something happening. I didn't necessarily expect it, but certainly wasn't shocked by it.
All right, well, let's hear some of the fan reactions that we got on Facebook of his firing. Melissa said first, "Thank you, Mike, for the time you served as head coach. Sorry for your departure. I hope the future treats you well, and happy holidays." Paula said, "Not just his fault. He did a lot of good that we should remember. Yes, there were some things I disliked, especially not using good players and then getting rid of them. Donald Driver comes to mind, Jordy Nelson, A.J. Hawk, Josh Sitton. I know some here won't agree, but I sure do miss those guys." And so I know, thank you ladies, number one, for your submission, but with 4 games to play, the Packers obviously firing Mike McCarthy. We kind of talked about it, Marcus touched upon it, but do you think that firing him mid-season was the best move for both parties? Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy said that the loss to Arizona was, quote, unacceptable and essentially the last straw for Mike McCarthy. But do you guys feel like firing him now was the best choice?
I think it was, thinking about it, because clearly they had made up their mind. And if you've made up your mind that you're firing Mike McCarthy, then why not do it now? I mean, what's more disrespectful? Firing a coach in season or knowing you're going to fire a coach after the season and then for a month you're walking around eggshells, you see him in the hallway every day, like, "Hey, Mike, nice day," knowing in the back of your mind he's a goner. That would be in bad taste. So if you made up your mind, clearly the Packers did. If there was ever a game that was going to get him fired this season, it was the one we saw on Sunday against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, if Green Bay's doing their due diligence at this point, they would, and they know they're going to move on from at the end of the year, they absolutely unequivocally have to start reaching out to agents for other coaches and start testing the waters a little bit. And if they're going to do that, then something's going to leak out. And when something leaks out, then those rumors start. And now you've got a head coach on the team who knows that the team is going behind his back, looking for other candidates for when the season is over. And it just creates this huge mess and a ton of drama. And that's not respectful to him either. So you're kind of darned if you do either way. I think always being upfront and honest is the best way to go about it. If they knew they were going to move on, do it now, get it over with, rip the Band-Aid.
Awesome. Great points by these guys. And Mark Murphy also made mention that, you know, when he told him that he was going to be let go, obviously he said Mike was a very high character guy and he kind of said he knew it was coming. Well, there was a lot made this year about Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy's relationship and that it had fractured, but we'll get to that in a minute. But do you guys think that Mike lost control of the locker room? Mainly because, you know, you think this is a must-win game against Arizona. Their head coach's job is on the line, but yet they still come out and play very uninspired.
It's hard to say the words "lost the team," I feel like, without actually being on the team and knowing what goes on in the locker room. But I'll say this, from the outside looking in, I've never been at more of a loss for words than I was watching that game against the Cardinals. It looked nothing like the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and the game turned into a J.K. Scott puntapalooza. I mean, it was no flow whatsoever. Again, you just keep coming back to it was time.
Yeah, it was time. I don't think he necessarily lost the team, but I think he lost ways to motivate the team. I think they still wanted to win. They were trying to go and do that. But I think, you know, he didn't have the same, finger on the button like he used to, the finger on the pulse of the team. And this is a team, when I look at evaluating coaches, I always look for ways to see, all right, which players are overachieving and which players are underachieving. And you go through the roster as a whole, And to me, what Kyler Fackrell's maybe overachieving. I mean, there's a few players who are playing great that you expected to play great, but then there's a laundry list of players: Aaron Rodgers, Nick Perry, Clay Matthews, Clinton Dix before he was traded, and the list kind of goes on and on of players who are underachieving. And when you have way more underachievers than way more overachievers, that is cause for serious concern.
Oh, totally agree, guys. But here's what Aaron Rodgers said. He talked to the media a day after his head coach was fired, and this is what he said. He said it was a kind of a shock that he found out because he was at home when he found out about this, that his coach of 12 years had been let go. He regarded Mike McCarthy as a friend, said they had ebbs and flows in the relationship, like any good head coach and quarterback duo would have. But he wanted to make it clear there was no fracture in their relationship. But do you guys kind of buy what he said?
So I'm sure that Rodgers and McCarthy butted heads a lot. I remember Jermichael Finley telling me that they were like two battering rams, just constantly going head to head with the game plan or whatever else. But you can also go the other way. They were in their 13th season together, so let's not make it out like it was this completely disastrous, toxic relationship where they couldn't be in the same room together. I mean, they had 12 seasons, they're in their 13th, and eventually, I mean, that's a long, long time in the NFL. There's got to be some fractures here and there, so.
I thought the offense all season and for a couple seasons now has felt like it's had two very different personalities, and it's been tough to figure out what they're exactly trying to do. I think it's because this offense had two very different personalities, meaning they had Aaron Rodgers and they had Mike McCarthy, two very smart offensive minds who know how to win in this league, but neither of them wanted to cede control to the other one. And I think they butted heads at times with how they wanted to go about winning. I think they had differing views. And because of that, you had no structure, no rhythm, no anything to kind of build on. And it never seemed like they got into that rhythm. And I think that was because, again, neither of them wanted to kind of give into the other one. They were both the alpha male in the room.
And here's what Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams had to say about their head coach. Aaron Rodgers said, first, we accomplished a lot together. We've had some incredible moments. The way he stood by my side during 2008, during the tough changeover, the great times, obviously winning a Super Bowl together, running the table all the way to the NFC title game. We accomplished a lot of things, and we have a lot of great memories to talk about down the line. Davante Adams also added, it's sad to see him gone. I wouldn't say it's like a cloud or anything, but hopefully things do get better from here on out. And hopefully things get better for him as well. So here in summary is a summary of Mike McCarthy's legacy in Green Bay after 13 years as the head coach. He finished with a 125-77-2 record, made the playoffs in 9 of his 13 seasons, 8 of which were in consecutive years, a franchise record. And finally, he took the Pack to 1 Super Bowl in 2010, where they obviously took home the Lombardi Trophy. Now, there you guys have it, though. There's kind of his legacy in a nutshell. I know his tenure here ended on a very sour note, but do you guys think that when he is gone for a long period of time, that fans will miss what he did for this team?
Absolutely. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. When you win a Super Bowl in Green Bay, you're immortalized. There's a street named after him already, regardless if he moves on somewhere else. I mean, that's always going to be there, Mike McCarthy way, and he did it his way. I mean, you know, you'll look back at Mike McCarthy's tenure and remember him for the good that he did, the Super Bowl that he brought, not the season that we're struggling through right now in 2018.
Yeah, I don't even think it should necessarily take a long period of time. I would hope that a lot of that respect already exists. I know some people are still bitter at the moment, but it should not take long. A Super Bowl win for any head coach is a huge coup, and it's something that this team and he should be very, very proud of. They came off a 4-12 season before he started with the team, and this team has really lacked talent and depth, and he really kind of turned that around. And I know the 2 NFC Championship game losses will sting, and it'll kind of stick with him, and certainly how this ended will stick with him as well. But he won a Super Bowl, and that should be remembered hugely.
I agree. Awesome, awesome points by these guys. All right, guys, when we come back, who could be the next head coach of the Green Bay Packers? Marcus and Andy will break it all down. Keep it here.